probably know Halloween is also known as All Hallows Eve. It's the night before the Day of the Dead. So while costumes and candy will rule tomorrow, honoring the dearly departed is really what it's all about. So here are 5 things you didn't know about Dia de los Muertos. No, we don't mean the horror flick. We're talking about the Mexican holiday that's taking the world by storm.
The Day of the Dead.
The number 1 thing you may not know, Dia de los Muertos should really be called Days of the Dead.
Welcome to the land of the remember.
Families celebrate their dearly departed the first 2 days in November. The first, Day of the Innocent, children and infants are honored. The second commemorates adults.
Epic fiestas.
And it used to be even longer. At number 2, the holiday was celebrated for a month and began at least 3,000 years ago by the Aztecs.
Dia de los Muertos is not a holiday of mourning. It is a day to celebrate the life of someone you love.
It was shortened and combined with All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day after the Spaniards came to Mexico. The third thing you don't know about Day of the Dead? At one time, the sugar skull tradition used real skulls.
Too soon!
They're now, thankfully, made of a sugar mixture and decorated with icing, feathers, and foil, and then inscribed with the name of the lost soul.
Display for your Day of the Dead festivities.
They are then placed on the altar or ofrenda.
Day of the Dead altars are tributes to deceased loved ones.
Various items are offered to help the dead on their long journey. Candles to light the way, water for thirst and cleaning, a special bread, pan de muerto, and marigolds to lure the dead with their smell and color.
It is also a tradition to leave possessions for the deceased.
And finally, number 5, one of the most famous skulls, the elegant La Catrina, was created by Mexican printmaker Jose Guadalupe Pasadajo.
La Calavera Catrina, which has become an icon for Dia de los Muertos.
That's 5 things you didn't know about Day of the Dead.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm?
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening.
Tonight we greet, with prayers of thanksgiving, the official news that an armistice was signed almost an hour ago in Korea.
On the 27th of July 1953, North Korea and South Korea signed an armistice, putting to end a 3-year conflict that claimed over 5 million lives. Despite regular threats of violence, the border nations have coexisted without open warfare since this agreement. In recent months, however, the relationship has become increasingly tense, as both nations have engaged in threatening behavior, prompting concern that South Korea is planning an attack. Korea split into 2 nations, the North and the South, in 1945. These countries became involved in the Cold War, the ideological conflict between communism and capitalism, which defined 20th century world politics. The Communist North invaded the South in 1950, igniting a protracted conflict that has lasted until the present day. In the intervening decades, there have been several incidents where full-out war seemed imminent. In 1974, North Korean agents tried to assassinate South Korean President Park Chung-hee and ended up killing his wife instead. Then, Pyongyang planted a bomb on a Seoul airliner, resulting in 115 fatalities. More recently, the 2 countries have engaged in minor naval battles in the Yellow Sea, including the sinking of a 1,200-ton South Korean corvette. But in February 2016, these tensions appeared to reach a tipping point. The United States and South Korea carried out their largest ever joint military exercise, rehearsing their response to a North Korean attack. Yet, for a simply hypothetical exercise, it was unusually comprehensive. It involved a third of the South Korean armed forces and 19,000 US military personnel, suggesting that something more sinister was afoot. In September 2016, Pyongyang announced that it had successfully conducted an extremely powerful nuclear test. Conservative estimates now claim its full arsenal has the capacity to destroy several large cities. Dr. Jeffrey Lewis of the Middlebury Institute of International Studies estimated that this latest test blast had a yield of between 20 and 30 kilotons, rendering it more substantial than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. In response to the test, the South Korean Defense Ministry unveiled the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation Plan, or KMPR, to the country's National Assembly. The plan states that South Korea will take preemptive military action against Pyongyang if it suspects imminent nuclear attack. The announcement is alarming because North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has become increasingly vocal about his dreams of annihilating foreign countries. In July 2016, he threatened to reduce America and South Korea to a sea of fire if they consolidated a planned anti-missile defense system on its border. But the plan remains underway. As North Korean aggression increases, so does the likelihood of KMPR coming into force. The unveiling of KMPR came just 1 year after South Korea announced its plans to inject its military with a further $200 billion over 5 years to combat increasing aggression from its northern neighbor. This strongly suggests that South Korea is preparing for conflict. Even more controversially, in 2016, Seoul established a special government unit for masterminding the removal of North Korean officials in case of a war. Indeed, South Korean Defense Minister Han Min-gu has openly stated that his teams would willingly assassinate Kim Jong-un if he ordered an attack on South Korea. But the costs of striking against North Korea would be huge. The regime is notoriously bloodthirsty. Allegedly, favored execution methods include being eaten alive by ravenous dogs. Indeed, in September 2016, the LA Times reported that senior officials had been slaughtered for simply slouching in a meeting. Senior US General Vincent Brooks described Kim Jong-un as a more risk-tolerant, aggressive, and impulsive leader than his father. The scale of reprisal would likely be merciless. Given the significant size of the North Korean nuclear arsenal, it is probable that the stakes are far too high for South Korea to strike. In these extreme circumstances, we could be looking at a situation of mutually assured destruction. As the costs of attacking become too great, the chances of war are minimized. Political analyst Van Jackson says that North Korea could simply be aiming to reach a threat level that all but guarantees its regime survival and freedom to coerce South Korea from a position of safety. Moreover, the American and South Korean military exercise takes place annually and should not necessarily be read as a sign of imminent warfare. Certainly, after 6 decades of their own Cold War, tensions between South and North Korea are extremely high. In recent months, both states have behaved in a way that suggests they are gearing up for war. Yet, given the huge human and financial costs at stake, attacking North Korea would be an extremely risky strategy. It is more likely we are looking at both North and South Korea building a strategy of mutually assured destruction in order to preserve themselves.
혁명의 기치 높이 억척같이 다져온 우리 혁명무력의 전투력과 모진막강한 외력을 과시하며 수 킬로미터의 해안가에 즐비하게 늘어선 300여 문의 대구경 자행포들. 경야는 최고령도 자동직께서 명령만 내리신다면 일격에 예제와 남조선 괴뢰들을 소탕하고 단숨에 남조선을 깔고 앉아 평정해버릴 월수경멸의 오해지 이 장엄한 소래대오에 고비치고 있습니다. 오늘 우리 백두산 혁명 강군은 미제가 원하는 그 어떤 전쟁에도 대응해줄 무적 필승의 강대한 힘을 가지고 있습니다. 경야는 최고령도 자동직께서 조선인민군 군정 합동 타격 시위를 진행할 때 대한 명령을 내리셨습니다. 작전수역으로 신속히 기동하여 전투 임무를 수행하는 잠수함 해병들과 대지를 박차고 날아오르는 전투 비행사들. 하늘길이 있어도 오직 한 길 수경결사옹이 저국결사 수호의 한노만을 나르는 하늘의 성세 방패로 틈틈이 준비된 우리의 붉은 배들입니다. 최고령도 자동지에 탁월하고 세련된 경도 밑에 우리 항공군은 백두산 공격 중심으로 만장약된 김정문 비행계로 그 기상을 떨치고 있습니다. 날개 위엔 태양이 있고 우리의 날개 아래엔 평양이 있다는 순정의 마음을 지니고 당중앙을 사수하는 미로운 비행사들이 있어 저국의 하늘은 언제나 맑고 푸른 것입니다. 백두산 선출위인의 담력과 배짱을 그대로 닮은 우리 항공군의 단호하고도 무자비한 타격력. 전투기들에서 멸종의 폭탄들이 불소나기 마냥 쏟아졌습니다. 최고령도 자동직께서는 목표들을 명중하는 상쾌한 광경을 보시며 전투 비행사들이 정말 잘 싸운다고 치하하셨습니다. 괴뢰 호전광들이 계속 무모한 선제 타격 망동에 미쳐 날뛴다면 백두산 혁명가 안고는 그 어떤 경고나 사전 통보도 없이 하늘과 땅, 해상과 소중에서 가장 처절한 징벌의 선제 타격을 가할 것입니다. 적들의 도발에는 즉시적인 대응 타격으로 침략 전쟁에는 정의의 저국 통일